Welcome, everybody, to another 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. Joining us today is Franklin County Auditor Michael Stinziano. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. Always good to be back.
It is definitely one of those things where I didn't plan on having you on a day that really makes sense. I just kind of worked out this way, but I'm sure we'll talk about the school levy in a little bit. But from everybody out there that's watching, people know kind of what the auditor of the city does and what they do. What exactly does the county auditor do? I know they've seen your name on a whole bunch of stuff, but what exactly do you do?
So we like to summarize it as we protect, connect, and reassess. Also known as all the things that the General Assembly didn't have a entity in the room for, assigned it to us. So we range from dog licensing all the way to, I'm very popular, that my name's on checks that are issued from the county. So if you do jury duty or serve as a poll worker. But we have that fiscal role, we have a consumer protection piece, and then it's the reassessment. It's the reassessment we're really popular every 3 years with.
Popular is, I don't know if that's the word I would use.
Sure. It depends. I get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
I assume you have to get feedback and be popular. But just a real range of duties, responsibilities that are broader than I think a lot of members of our community would assume when they hear county auditor.
Now, I know one interesting thing that you got to participate in is you spoke at the State House before the end of the session this past, I guess it was June. It feels like it was longer ago than that. And a number of things came up about how to deal with senior citizens and those on limited incomes, about what options the State House is looking because of the property tax increases. Can you give any information about where that kind of ended up, what you're hearing, what you're seeing?
Sure. So I'll kind of start on the back end of what we're seeing. There really has been a lot of momentum in the last year and a half through the General Assembly to look at the current structure of how property taxes and property values correlate. And for a system that we've had for decades, almost 100 years, with the impact of values have within a taxing district, which is how we get to those property taxes, are we doing it the right way? Are there other avenues, opportunities for relief that could exist that would be worth evaluating, not just as a proposal, but ultimately a law? Where I share with a lot of folks, there's a lot of things I personally would like to change, but we have to go to the General Assembly. They've had study committees. They've really worked on kind of sharpening that pencil of what ideas are out there. So some examples of what we testified on. I'm going to look at my numbers because there's a lot of numbers at the General Assembly. Senate Bill 244 creates residential stability zones. This was a concept we have been working out of entity, Franklin County Auditor's Office, entity out of Cleveland, where we've heard from local governments that would like to provide targeted relief. So if there's an area where you're seeing a lot of flipping or you're seeing a real economic development push that's causing particularly residents that have been there 2-3 decades, values all of a sudden increase, could there be a tax relief component to allow those residents to stay in this home? Nobody's goal is for people to be property taxed out of their neighborhood. But when you have older communities, you see that investment occurring, the way the law works, those values are going to rise. And so that correlation is a piece. Another example is Senate Bill 271. It's a circuit breaker model. So other jurisdictions, you can only see an increase in your property taxes up to a certain amount. So where we had historic value increases in 2023, the correlation taxes, that increase does not normally mean the same amount of property taxes, but for some residents, they saw a big increase. And so the circuit breaker would stop it, cap it at that level. We're also always advocating for modernization of the homestead exemption. History of homestead exemption for older residents is an interesting one, in that it used to be age and economic. Governor Strickland came in, got rid of the economic, so it was just age. So we saw a whole bunch of residents take advantage of it. Governor Kasich came in, had different budget challenges, added that economic piece, and now we're seeing our residents get older, but less and less get the benefit of the homestead exemption. So continuing to beat the drum, talk about that. Then the final one, which I'm slowly calling the Stinziano solution, refers to a deferral program. So some jurisdictions, if you can't pay those property taxes now, state would backfill that difference and you would defer till later. So maybe at the sale you would get caught up, or if there's a change in employment or other economic circumstances, allowing for that to remain on the books, make sure those taxing entities are made whole, but allow payment down the road. All those options exist in other jurisdictions in some shape, way, or form, but we just don't have that menu of options in Ohio. And so really advocating hard to allow that menu, because referral may work for one household, circuit breaker may work for another. And so the one size fits all that we currently have is not working, and so trying to find those other solutions.
Did you get the sense from the State House that this is going to be a priority for them when they come back? Because obviously they didn't really solve any or put anything forth this last time.
So the devil's always in the details of what's a priority. I think the state reps, state senators have heard loud and clear of a lot of frustration, that historic value increases, lack of housing, people concerned of being property taxed out of their neighborhood, and how kind of the property tax system works. They're definitely focused on that. The challenge is, particularly under current law, state constitution, when taxing entities go to the ballot, public says we're going to agree to pay this amount, how to make sure those tax entities are made whole. And so using the homestead as the example, if a resident gets the homestead exemption, that backfilling occurs through the state. Will the state put the dollars behind this or not? And that's where you see a lack of consensus. And I don't know if we'll get to that in this term, or if this is all building towards potential solutions in next year's budget cycle.
It's a little bit frustrating because obviously it's not, there's so many pieces to this. There's the housing piece, there's the school property tax piece, there's all the other entities that get something out of it. And then there's the idea of the logistically, okay, so we have an idea, we want to do it. How does it work? Because we know that there's always somebody out there that's going to want to beat the system. So the idea would be, if you have a senior exemption, could it easily be something, okay, well, I'm going to transfer my house into my grandmother's name so that way they can get the exemption even though I'm still living there and take. So there's a lot of things that I know that you have to kind of figure out with it. I hope that the General Assembly spends at least as much time as this as some of the other items that they addressed.
Well, that's also always the challenge. Yeah. You know, I think we got a lot of attention of the members of the General Assembly because a lot of them lived in counties that saw value increase. Yeah. And so they're asking those questions. They may be filing a Board of Revision complaint within their own jurisdiction. And so as they engage in the process, that's always seems to be a motivator as well.
So for the people in Reynoldsburg, if they have questions about their property taxes on the Franklin County side, because Reynoldsburg is that wonderful jurisdiction that we have multiple counties, when they call, is that primarily the reason they're calling you, is just to talk about their property taxes and where they're at?
Depends when they get their property tax bill. Okay. So I remind folks, property tax bill comes from the treasurer, not the auditor, the treasurer. But when they receive that bill, or there's maybe a change with their bank, an escrow, that's when we get those calls. Okay. I would say about 8 to 9 months out of the year, that's not what we hear. If you're looking to sell your property, you want to make sure the property card's updated. We get concerns about that. We get a pretty active amount of contact each week about mortgage fraud, making sure the documents are protected. Maybe they see an ad on a talk news channel, worried about deed fraud, and so what protections we have in place. So it really runs the gambit, including how do I license my dog? But when those bills go out, absolutely, that's the number one call we're getting. Right now, where we're at in our cycle, it'll be pretty quiet until the next round of bills or election time and ballot levies.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned about the deed. We actually had an issue of that. I think it was actually on our Licking County side, where someone all of a sudden had the deed to a house, and the person was living there, had no idea that her deed, and it was a complete fraud thing, and they were being told this, that, and they were to the point where they had scheduled a mover because they didn't know what was going on until they actually got law enforcement and everything else in there.
Hello, everyone. The pizza has been delivered.
So, just letting you know that Local Waste is providing pizza for lunch here today. So, and honestly, that is more important than the show. No offense to either one of us.
Pizza delivery is important. I do want to share, in Franklin County, we do have a free e-alerts program, so any property owner can register their name, and if a change in documentation, change in value occurs, if we get a property card recommendation change and you're signed up for that e-alert, you'll get a notice that it occurs.
That's phenomenal. That's pretty good. Because I know over the last couple of days, obviously with the school levy that we'll talk about, I've been looking at the various. Fairfield doesn't have a lot. We don't have a lot of housing in Fairfield. That's mostly commercial, but obviously Licking County and the Franklin County sites there, but that's good to have for that one. So some of the biggest challenges to your office, what would you say would be some of the challenge? I mean, obviously you probably never have enough staff. I've never met anyone that says that they have enough staff.
I mean, the challenge Couple things is just educating the public of what we do and don't do. So kind of what we started with, and where we can be a resource or not. Spend a lot of time assuring people I do not send them a tax bill. Emails once a week. Oh, I sent you my bill or my tax payment. Why haven't you deposited? That's not the auditor's office. Personally, with the background from a city council in Columbus, serving in the legislature, the auditor's office is a creature of statute. So all of our duties and responsibilities are laid out in the revised code. And so where there are things we'd want to change or areas that we think a little more common sense could exist, it's very difficult to pursue those opportunities. And so that remains a challenge as well. But we work really hard. We try to get creative, like with the e-alert system, eliminate fees where we can. So both the auditor and recorder's office, if you have a name change. So I found it to kind of be sexist that we charge the fee when it's primarily women that were doing a name change. So we were able to eliminate that fee in the auditor's office. Trying to find those little opportunities. It's all in the margins because, again, the statute's so clear of our duties and responsibilities. But the frustration is just not being able to initiate that change on my own.
Yeah. I share that at times. So.
But it is nice to be a caucus of one.
Yeah.
So while the policy isn't driven, it's nice to have so many talented members of the office to get to work.
Well, I know one of the, when we obviously get phone calls, anytime that your office is brought up, we always hear compliments about it. Like, nobody ever calls me and says, I talked to the auditor's office and wow, that person was a jerk. I never hear that. So just kudos to your staff. We appreciate,
yes. A lot of talented people. I just try and stay out of their way.
Well, Reynoldsburg decided last night, their school district, to go ahead and put a levy up. It is the first levy that they've actually put up since 2010, so it has been quite some time. They put a bond issue up, and again, without going to the rabbit hole of school funding, there are differences between the two, but this one is for operational purposes. So the numbers kind of came out, and it's $233 per $100,000. So I know on your website you have a levy calculator. Now, when I looked, obviously, yesterday, there was nothing available for it. Obviously, over the course of the next however long it takes the process to update. Is it that simple that I can put in my address and hit a button, and then all of a sudden I can actually see what that actual dollar amount would be?
Yes, it is that simple.
Okay.
So any jurisdiction that's going to have a levy or bond that would impact the property taxes, we do create a ballot levy estimator. Mm-hmm. Reynoldsburg will not be the only jurisdiction. We'll actually have a countywide issue as well. Yep. And a few other school districts are going on the ballot. And so we'll send a postcard out notifying property owners, hey, this is going to be on your ballot. We want you to know that impact. Mm-hmm. But then when you go to the auditor's website, pull up the ballot levy estimator and can project, if passage occurs, what that impact could be on their property taxes.
Well, we did get one question that was submitted, and I don't know if you know the specific answer for it, but my understanding is, so when the school district puts on a levy, they're unable to provide exemptions for fixed income senior citizens and things like that. That's not your office that prevents them from doing it. That's somewhere further up the chain, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That is one common thing that is asked, and so I figured I would make sure that everyone was aware of that one. The other question that we always get is this idea that apartment complexes never pay property taxes, that they are somehow exempt from any increases all the way across. Can you provide any kind of example of how maybe that is not entirely accurate?
Yeah, so any property, unless deemed by the State Department of Taxation as exempt for whatever reason, so maybe a local jurisdiction did a tax incentive, maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's a church, but you have to apply in all those cases, are going to be appraised just like any other property. Apartments are a little different in that we don't just look at a sales approach, we'll also look at the income approach. So if we can find out what rents are, maybe that value is a little bit more because it's generating so much more in rent. But nope, every property gets appraised, and then when it's exempt, it's exempt. But even the Horseshoe on Ohio State's campus has a valuation at the end of the day, although it's a university, so there's no taxes collected on it.
But at least you have an idea. So can people, if they wanted to, let's say I put in apartment complex X on that levy calculator site, you could probably figure out how much those complexes would then pay when the time comes.
You could, and you should be able to look up the address on the auditor's website as well and see what tax bills have been historically.
because that's one of those things where there's always a lot of conversation with how that works. Now, I know that that's going to change a little bit in Columbus because they made some different changes for abatement policies when it comes to residential. So that will be a whole other different thing that I don't have to worry about because that's not happening here.
I mean, one of the fun auditor's responsibility, I serve as the statutory chair of all tax incentive review council, so about 22 meetings across the county. Remind folks, tax incentives don't occur just in Columbus, but part of the conversation, we encourage people to visit on the auditor's website, the hub. Any tax incentive that's existing, you can see that. So where some of those will exist, anyone that's of interest should be able to find them on the auditor's website.
And there are plenty of people that look at that, obviously. My time as a teacher in Columbus City Schools, that was always a conversation piece that came up. Still is, but always a good conversation piece.
We brag the county auditor's website's the most visited county website out there, and it's mostly neighbors checking on other neighbors of what's their value, what are they paying in taxes, and did they pull the right permit to add that fence or not?
Yeah, that happens here too.
Oh,
yeah, I can imagine. So what's the best part of your job? I mean, I have an idea because I know we've talked about this before, but what's the best part of your job?
I really enjoyed the opportunity to take the office out into the community. If you've ever been to the county courthouse, floors 19, 20, 21 aren't the most exciting place to be, but we've got a lot of talented people really passionate about making sure residents understand what the law allows, what it doesn't allow, and being a resource. But we go out into the community with that. So with the mobile office, as well as going to any festival, community event we can, that's the best part. Really not sitting in downtown, but being out across the county and just the diversity, the conversations, it's always exciting.
Well, I like it. Not only do you come to our events here in the city, which is great, but I also like that there have been times that you've gone to some of our local coffee shops and just sitting down just in case somebody has anything. One of the things that we always hear is, whether it's the courthouse downtown, is one level of, I don't want to call it intimidation, but it's definitely out of the comfort zone for some people to go somewhere here. Same thing with City Hall. Not everybody wants to go to City Hall. So the fact that you're able to go out there as large of an agency as you are with what you deal with, to go out and actually sit down and just have a cup of coffee and answer questions is commendable. So thank you for that, because I know how important that is to people.
Yeah, every week I do community hours. Similar, COVID showed some virtual hours are appreciated. So each month, 2 times I'll be in person, 2 times it should be virtual. What we do like when we're virtual, though, we'll highlight a small business across the county because we touch a lot of cities, villages, and townships.
Yeah. Well, did we get any questions in?
No.
All right. Well, you were kind of off the hook. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you have plenty of things to do.
I hear there's pizza.
Yeah, there's pizza. So, this is right in the break rooms over there. But I do appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. You want to stick around for a little bit, or are you going?
I'm going to go.
No, please. No,
I'm going to go find the pizza.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll go ahead and do it. Thank you,
Thank you,
to
Mayor.
the auditor for coming in today. Lots of good information. Obviously, this is kind of going to be a big thing that you're going to be learning about with the levy issue that is coming up. I did look at the Licking County side. I did not see a levy calculator at that point, on that website, but obviously I'm sure we can give a call and figure that one out. While we're still talking about education, we have board member office hours, which I have a feeling will get a lot more popular over the next couple of months. This Friday and every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Graham Road location. The first half hour is online, as you all know, from board member Whitman. And the rest of the time is kind of in person, but definitely have conversation pieces out there about all of that stuff. We also have some cool, fun things. This is the official announcement this week. If you're familiar, the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation has a gala every year. And this is an organization that you've heard Debbie Dunlap talk about, that they actually help provide a number of different resources to students and staff. Staff members get X amount of dollars for kind of mini scholarship, for mini grants for some projects that they do in their classrooms that are always engaging and energetic, but sometimes outside of the norm of what teachers are supposed to be paying for. And then the other part of it is helping to provide scholarship funding for students that would like to go to the Washington, D.C. trip, because as we all know, everything is expensive, and this just helps allow that many more people to experience all of democracy as it is. So it's going to be Thursday, September 19th at 1883 Locale, which is, again, a wonderful location. There's going to be an auction. There's all sorts of cool sports stuff there. There's all sorts of cool gift baskets from local businesses and everything, so that's always a lot of fun. Student art sale is another one. You're going to see some really cool pieces of art that our students do all the way K-12, all the way across. Maybe if it's your kid's art, you can actually buy it and say that you bought it at auction. They have a couple of tiers of pricing, and again, you get food and there's drinks and all of that as well, and apparently dancing, though I do not participate in that part, and we're all thankful for that. But early bird pricing, if you get your tickets now, it's $55. It's $60 day of and $75 at the door. So go ahead and look at that. It's the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation page on Facebook. So that's something to take a look at. It is a fun time. You get to dress up, you get to go have fun, you get to have some, some good food, partake in a couple of beverages, and then it's all for a good cause. And each year it gets better and bigger. And this year, I don't know exactly what it means, but there's a wine pull of some sort. So basically, I guess it's almost like a lottery where certain bottles of wine are there, and if you win, then you get some kind of bottle of wine. So that is an opportunity. I'm sure that somebody from the Education Foundation will be on the show in the future to talk about that, but that's a new thing. We also have some news. If you remember, I talked about tire collection. Swaco is still doing their tire collection. They have one event this Saturday from 9 to 12 at 5333 Lockbourne Road, so you have a chance to take advantage of that. If you don't have any tires to get rid of, I understand. Why don't you just come out for a walk with me? This Saturday is going to be our first walk in the neighborhood, walk and talk. We're going to start at the corner of Bartlett and Haft. Trust me, you'll see me there with probably a garbage bag and a trash picker. So if it's just me, it's just me. But if you want to join in, if you live in the area or you live in Reynoldsburg and just want to have a conversation about pretty much anything, we can do so. Don't mind me as I kind of pick up a little litter as we go. It's just something I've kind of gotten in the habit too. So that's the first one. We'll do it again the following week, which I'll bring up next week. Basically what I did to kind of figure out where I'm doing this is I tried to make sure I got it in all sorts of different parts of the community, and then I was looking for roads that are kind of like the straightaway roads that I can do a loop on, so that way I can see a really good portion of everything and it's not confusing. So let's say if you don't see me at Bartlett and Haft, but I'm walking down the road, you know that I'm going to be on that road at some point. So those are some options that are there. But come on out, come and talk. You don't have to walk the entire thing, and you don't have to pick up litter if you don't want to. You can just come in and ask questions about what's going on in the city, or we can talk a little Ohio State football or who knows what else. So come on out for that. We do have our Wagner Road update. We are actually progressing quite well on Wagner Road. The waterworks should be done by the end of next week, if not sooner. We know that AEP is going to be working on their pole relocation over the next 2 weeks, and they want to get that done. So those are things. Columbia Gas is on pace for what they're doing, so everything is actually working quite well. The other part of the coin is going to be that in the not too distant future, the bridge in between Wagner by Main side, as you kind of cross over by, you've got the gas station and the retail complex. That bridge is controlled by Franklin County, and they're going to be coming in and in essence scraping off the top and then refilling it out after that. We're still working to figure out exactly when that happens, but there's going to be some delays with that one because they just have to get that part done. And I'm not saying I'm blaming the county, but it's the county bridge and their thing. So got some things to look forward to that. The dedicated right turn lane at Sheets is all done. Everything is paved. I think the only delay that they'll have in the future is when they go and actually put the turn lanes in and things like that. So that's going to be a big thing. That will hopefully alleviate a lot of the traffic. Now, please give us a little time to adjust and fiddle with the traffic lights, because we know that now we have a left turn lane, we have a right turn lane, and we have a center lane. We want to make sure that the timing is right. So it is going to take a little bit of time to kind of iron out all the bugs. So it may be short in the beginning, and we'll adjust as we go. So just give us a little bit of the leeway on that one, but we'll get that together. We do have CODA, as always. One of the other items that the auditor was talking about is another kind of countywide issue. This would be for a sales tax for the CODA Bus Rapid Transit. So it's an interesting concept that will be up to the voters. It is not technically a Reynoldsburg issue, but it obviously will impact Reynoldsburg because the Main Street has been identified as a corridor of need. The quick version of it is rapid transit bus travel between the far east side by the Department of Agriculture all the way to downtown Columbus and beyond. It is, the way it is broken down, it is a 0.75% tax increase. 0.5% is actually specifically for the bus rapid transit line. The other 0.25 is just a replacement. So yes, it is an increase, but it's broken down a little bit. So if you want more information from people who know a lot more about it, they're going to be at our farmers market on August 8th at the market off Main Street. So they'll be here with their own kind of display, and they'll be ready to answer all sorts of questions. Obviously, if you have more specific questions, we'll be doing some town halls and things like that as we kind of come forward. So got that going on. Any questions on any of that so far?
No.
All right. We do have a lot of events coming up. It is the summertime, so we know we've got big things. So the Reynoldsburg Police Department is going to have their National Night Out on Thursday, August 6th from 5 to 8 p.m. right here at JFK, so that's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a DJ, there's going to be a raffle, bounce houses. There's going to be a drone demo, which is always pretty cool. Food's going to be there and all sorts of cool things from the police department. So we do encourage you to come out from 5 to 8 p.m. here at JFK Park. It's going to be a lot of fun. We also have our flood grant town hall, which is actually tomorrow night. That's at the Reynoldsburg Library from 6 to 8 p.m. So this is going to be able to provide a lot of information about what the organization that's doing this evaluation has found out so far. What are some of the big concerns, the areas, and things of that nature. They'll talk a little bit about potential solutions, but this is going to be giving everybody an update on what they're seeing. So I do encourage you, if you've ever experienced any issues with flooding in the Reynoldsburg area, come on out, talk with them, hear what they have to say. But this is the second of 3 town halls. The third town hall will have the solutions and recommendations moving forward, which then opens up the door to a whole bunch of other stuff. So come on out and check that out. As far as our parks, we've got a lot of fun things going on. We've got the Livingston House nighttime tour. The first one is actually going to be this weekend. And then we've got on July 19th, we've got another one August 16th. That's from 10 p.m. to midnight, and it's 18 years and up because ghosts don't like kids. So make sure you remember that. We also have a Paint and Sip mini canvas on Saturday, July 28th from 1 to 3 at Eastside Brewing. And next Monday, we have the Wacky Olympics. We've talked about this one. This is going to be really fun to kind of see, and I'm sure we'll have some pictures. You've got one adult and a kid, and they're going to compete for gold at the Reynoldsburg Community Church with all sorts of cool things in honor of the Olympics just getting ready to start up. For those of you that have questions about Bryce Park, yes, it's still going on. There are some questions for a utility line that is under where we have kind of the entryway. And so everybody's kind of evaluating that to make sure that if we put basically a curb cut there, that it's not going to impact anything utility-wise. I don't think it will. They don't think it will, but they have to make sure that everything's kind of checked out for that. So that is still progressing, and I think the playground equipment and all of that is supposed to be scheduled to come in September, October. So everything's still on track with that. It's just making sure this other stuff. We also have another event tomorrow night. It's the Markets off Main Street. Tomorrow we have the highlights of the Redbeard bees. So if you like honey, natural honey, that's a great place. And then uniquely made treats, which who doesn't like any treats, especially if they're uniquely made. And then tomorrow the Red-Headed Chef food truck will be there. So I was kind of going with a red theme on this one as I was picking things out. So they'll be here as well. We also, if that's not enough for you, we have Food Truck Friday. This is our big food truck event this Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. right here at JFK. We've got food trucks of Bada Bing, Bada Wing, Donna's Delicious Dozen, Pizza on the Spot, Kona Ice, and more. And you'll be able to enjoy some 70s and 80s classic rock with long play that'll be here. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see you out here. So far, the weather looks great. But depending on what Jennifer feels that day, who knows? We'll see what happens. We've had a kind of a rough luck of weather on things. She's giving me a dirty look right now, but it's okay. We also have next Wednesday the age-friendly community kickoff event. As you know, we have a great senior center, so if anybody from the senior center is watching, how you doing? I'm sure we'll see each other in the future, but next Wednesday we have kind of a kickoff where it's to allow senior citizens to make sure that they understand that they have access to all sorts of things, from issues from housing, services that the Franklin County offers to senior citizens, and what kind of fun stuff they can do other than what you already are aware of at the senior center. So come on out, learn a little bit about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our next concert on the lawn is going to be July 28th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And Jennifer, who's our musical guest at the next one?
Ronstadt Heatwave.
Ronstadt Heatwave. And so they're going to be playing kind of like pop songs type of thing.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, Linda Ronstadt, things of that nature. So come on out for that one. I know that we've had questions about last time, the one that we had to cancel as far as rescheduling. I'm sure we'll figure out something. We just don't know exactly what. But definitely, I know everybody was really looking forward to him coming out. So we'll get there at some point. As far as the Tomato Festival, we do have some big news. So we all kind of like look at what other communities are doing with events and like what the trends are and what things are going on. And due to some recent events that we've seen at a couple of things, we're going to be taking some proactive measures at the Tomato Festival this time. It's really not going to change much of anything, but we are going to be issuing basically kind of the bracelets, the badges, or not badges, I guess basically just the wristbands. That you come in. For people of 18 and up, show your ID, you get your badge, and for those that are younger than 18, they have to be accompanied by a parent. And that'll be something throughout the entire Tomato Festival. Now, don't worry, kids, if you're watching, and I doubt you are, but if your kids are there, that doesn't mean they have to stay with the parent the entire time, but they do have to have a wristband on there. So we're just doing this just to make sure everybody has as best a time as they can. We haven't really had any issues at the Tomato Festival, but we're doing some things proactively to make sure that it stays that way. So you will start seeing more information on that as we go through. Basically, you're going to come in, show your ID, you'll get your ID badge, and then you'll go in. Depending on how many things you participate in, if you go to the beer garden or you go to the VIP, you may have like a sleeve of armbands at some point in time that will be there. But again, maybe we'll do a contest for, whoever has the most over the course of the 3-day event. But go ahead and check that out. If you're interested in signing up for some volunteer work, we are getting that one out. We've just been kind of overwhelmed a little bit, and we haven't gotten that out as best as we can, but we will do that one. Any questions, comments, anything like that?
No.
All right, so I'm going to two quick things. This is the end of the show where I always get off on my soapbox. Two things. One, there was an incident earlier today in Reynoldsburg. I can't divulge much of anything because it's an ongoing investigation, but I can say that no one knows what's going on specifically. So those on social media that feel that they have the inside scoop, they do not. It is a completely different situation than what most realize. Let's just understand that some people's lives were lost, and there's no threat to the safety in the community at this time. Beyond that, everything will kind of get revealed as the time goes on. So keep that in mind. As well as the other thing. This past weekend, we all saw the events of what happened in Pennsylvania with former President Trump and the assassination attempt. We all see on social media people expressing their views. People can have views for Democrats, people can have views for Republicans, and they can disagree on policies until the cows come home, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What the issue becomes is how volatile things have gotten, and we all have to do a better part of that. I don't want to engage on social media about a lot of those things because, one, it's not my place, and honestly, I don't really think any of you care what my views are. You know I'm a Democrat, so you know which way I'm leaning on this one, so it's not a surprise. But as far as going anything beyond that, there really isn't a reason to it. But just understand that when you're on social media and you say things that are hostile to one side or the other about any of these things, it really isn't doing anybody any good. All it's doing is fanning further flames of everything. And this goes for anybody that I know on my social media pages all the way out there. We have to do better because the reality is when you're walking down the street, no one knows whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or somebody who just doesn't want to vote because they don't want to have to deal with it. And when you say things on social media that are nasty and whatever volatile and what we have seen, it doesn't do anything any better, and not only at the national level, but the state level and the local level. We all know that people say things on social media because there's a sense of security that you can type something in and you don't ever have to worry about seeing the person that you're saying it about. I get that. There's something that is empowering about that, and you can express your opinions, which you are free, again, to do so. That being said, there's always going to be people on the other side that are looking at it, and it becomes something else. And one of the most pointless things in the world to do is to get into a Facebook debate back and forth over topics that are never going to be settled because people feel strongly about one side or the other. So I can't guarantee that you're going to have to be perfect and you have to be respectful and all that. We're all going to have our moments. But I'm just asking you, before you start typing something specifically about some of the contentious issues that are going on in our nation right now, just remember that there's more to it than that. That's not exactly what our founding fathers had intended to be volatile. Disagree? Yes. Debate? Absolutely. I love the debate. Believe me, everybody knows that. But on social media, in light of what happened this past weekend, we all need to tone it down. What we have to do is look at whatever particular party platform looks best for whatever your personal views are, and all the other stuff about the damaging words that are used, the things that could be impacting your friends and neighbors and things like that. We have to get beyond that. So that is my little bit of a soapbox with it. Maybe that is something you'll want to talk to me about this Saturday. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But again, as I've tried to say a lot of times, as far as the city is concerned, there really isn't a Republican way to fill a pothole, and there's not a Democratic way to fill a pothole. The reality is all of you want me to fill every pothole, and that's what we have to do as best a job as we can. So there you go. With that, do we have any other last-second questions? Nothing?
Nope.
Oh well. It was fun last time. I think I got kind of spoiled with the amount of questions from last week. But I do recommend you go ahead and check out if you have questions about the school levy. Please reach out to the school district if you have questions about how that's going to impact your property taxes. I would probably say you're going to have to give it about a week or so before the Franklin County site is updated so you can kind of check and see what that is. But please do that. So next week, we're going to be back on July 17th, and we're going to be having our first-time guest, Amanda Gary's from our Reynoldsburg Parks and Recreation Department. She's going to come in and talk about all the cool things that Parks and Rec is doing. If you've been to our First Friday film, food, and fun, we've had that going on. Obviously, some of the other things that we've got going on. So Amanda's going to come and talk to us all, and believe me, she's really looking forward to it. Though she did say she may come down with a cold on Tuesday. So, but hopefully she'll be here for that. As far as everyone else, again, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll see you on Saturday. Again, stay safe, stay respectful, and as always, please put your shopping carts away because it's just a good thing to do. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.